been set before us. Let me identify what's going on here. This is a group of second generation Christians. Second generation Christians. Let me tell you what that means. They're not the original group. They're a second generation group of people that have not experienced what the first group experienced. The first group personally experienced Jesus. The first group personally experienced the apostles. The first group personally experienced the miracles. The first group personally experienced all this stuff. The second group hadn't. And so the second group finds themselves in a situation of lethargy. They find themselves in a situation of non-movement. They find themselves in a place where they're struggling, believing what their parents have told them and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah, well, we didn't grow up in the age of the dinosaur whenever you were going, because you know that's how you feel. Your parents are old and dead and they don't know anything. And so they don't listen to their parents. And so they're sort of stuck. Their faith has already flattened after one generation. Their faith has already flattened and already started to compromise in their faith. And so Paul writes this letter to them, and in this letter he says, hey, you guys are just not moving. And there's a whole lot of other things that he talks about not moving. But when he gets to chapter 12, he says, I want you to understand something. Since we are surrounded by everybody that takes away every excuse that you could possibly have, and that would be Hebrews chapter 11. It's known as the Hall of Fame of Faith. And it talks about all these faithful people. Some are named, some are not named. And in all of these people, it demonstrates a group of people that in every circumstance, every situation that you could possibly imagine, good, bad, harmful, murderous, wicked, evil, demonstrated faith. Demonstrated clear understanding, clear direction, clear purpose, and let nothing stop them. Those that were unnamed, some were sawn in two, some were fed to the lions, some were starved to death, some babies were murdered. And yet they still remain faithful. And Paul says, since you're surrounded by these people in witness and testimony, so there's no excuse, here's what you need to do. You need to lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily ensnares you. And then run with endurance the race that's been set before you. I don't have time to deal with this whole passage. I will say this. There is a race that God set before you. There is a race that you didn't choose, that you didn't make up, that you didn't decide upon, that God set in front of you, that He intends for you to run. I think there are two races. I think that God has a personal thing for you in your life, and I think that God has a corporate thing for us in life. And He says, I need you to run with endurance that race. I need you to stay in there. But to do that, there's a couple of things that He said. I only want to deal with one, and that is when He said, lay aside every weight, because there are some things in our life that are holding us back that are not sinful. They're just heavy. They weight us down. They stop us from being able to move. That thing on the top of that rocket right there is not sinful. It's just a hindrance. That's it. It's just in the way. Now, it was purposeful for a time. It was meaningful for a time. And it is helpful for a time. But when its time is finished, it needs to be moved out of the way so that the rocket can actually accomplish what it was actually put there to accomplish. And that is to get that thing into space and to do some exploration. So let's think about this for a moment. Here is the easiest revelation for us to miss in this text. God never adds thrust to our clutter. God never accelerates what remains restrained. God is never going to empower something in your life that He has told you to strip off. He's not going to do that. So the reason sometimes that we feel pressure is because we're not making progress. Can you imagine the pressure that must be on the nose cone of that center fuel tank right there? There must be enormous pressure on that nose cone. Do you know that that nose cone is not made for that level of pressure? It was not designed for pressure. It was designed to hold fuel. It was designed to pierce through the wind. It was not designed to hold pressure. And the only reason there's pressure on it is because it's in the way when the thrust is being applied. Sometimes in our life, the reason that we're feeling pressure is because we're getting pushed up against something that's in the way, and we've failed to remove it. We're not recognizing there's some things in our life that we need to let go of. Let me give you some thoughts of some things it could be. There might be some old routines in your life that don't produce anything anymore. Some of us are creatures of habit. We do the same thing every day. We get up and nothing wrong with routines, but some of them are old routines and they don't do anything for us. They don't move the needle. They don't cause us to walk down the lane. They don't do anything for us, but we still do it. The same thing, day in, day out, same thing over and over and over again. It's Groundhog Day in our life. We're just walking through life on automatic. We don't even know what's happening. We don't even know how we got here. You don't even know how you got to church this morning. Look at the chair you happen to be sitting in. Wonder which chair you're sitting in. Oh, you know, the chair you always sit in. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But is the rest of your life like that? How about old wounds that you've learned to manage rather than resolve? You know, God gives us incredible ways to resolve things. Matter of fact, He mandates us to do it. He mandates us to do it. But we can't. We got an old hurt. We're not going to resolve that old hurt. We're not going to overcome that old hurt. We're not going to conquer that old hurt. We're not going to rise above that old hurt. We're not going to mature past that old hurt. Oh, no. No, we're going to etch that old hurt into a diary, into a log, and we're going to nurture that thing. And we're going to make sure that it allows us to stay exactly where we're at right now for the rest of our life and never move again, and that'll be the reason why. Well, let me tell you about this relationship that hurt me, and that's why I don't date anymore. That's why I'm not married now. That's why I have no friends. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. First time, shame on you. Second time, shame on me. I'll never go there again. Boy, that's sad. That's really sad. One day, if you ever get to heaven, God will say, hey, I want to show you what should have been. What could have been. Except for you let this stand in the way. You didn't forgive. I gave you the ability to forgive. I gave you the command to forgive and the ability to forgive. I gave you the knowledge to mature. I gave you the strength to cross over. I gave you the pathway. I gave you the pastor. I gave you the church. I gave you the job. I gave you the money. I gave you the friends. I gave you the ability. I gave you the health. I gave you everything that you needed to go across. You didn't take advantage of it. Look at what could have been. Don't do that. Don't let that happen to you. Man, you're going to have to break free of that pad. I know it's comfortable. I know that it feels good. I know that it feels safe. I know that it feels familiar. I know that. And it's easier to do that. I know that routine is so much better. I know that routine is more fun. And the thing is, you don't recognize it because restraints don't stop thrust. You're still very noisy. You're still very energetic. You still demonstrate a whole lot of things. You still demonstrate that. It just won't go anywhere because restraints don't stop. They don't stop thrust. They just stop movement. Just stop movement. Same place. Same place. Don't be in the same place. Get ready to remove the restraint. Because God wants you to. You don't need more faith today. You don't need more effort. And you don't need more prayer to do this. You need one less thing attached to your life that is weighting you down. Because you cannot carry what God told you to drop and still expect Him to launch you into a new life. So here's a question. Let's pause for a moment. Let's do a little exploratory question. What is still bolted to your life that God has already told you to remove? It's a really good question. Because launch is not about effort. It is about release. I don't need you to do more. I don't need you to get busier. It's just about letting something go. Just let it go. Try this. Go home. If you have a ladder, anybody, if you have a ladder at home, you know, not a step ladder where you're just standing on it. One of those ladders that's got rungs where you can grab it with your hands. Try this out. Just go home and just try it. See if it works for you. I want you to walk up to the ladder, and I want you to grab a rung. And I hope it's about a 10-foot ladder. So grab a rung. I want you to climb the ladder, but don't let go of the rung. Don't let go of that rung. I want you to see how far you can go. You know how far you can go? About one step. And that's about it. That's all you're going to get. Well, you're holding on to something right now. How much distance have you made over how many years? Are y'all all right? I'll just check. It's okay. It's okay. Well, let's move. Number 2, okay, we got everything removed. Let's say we removed something. We took the thing off the top of the rocket. That would be awesome. But guess what you need to take off? Got to have a little thrust. You're going to have some thrust, but thrust comes at a cost. How'd you like to know how much it cost to fill the gas tank on that bad boy? You know what I mean? That's a lot of fuel. That's a lot of energy. They got solid rocket boosters, and then they got liquid oxygen that's going on up in that thing to be able to take that thing take off. So listen here. Here's the thought. Nothing lifts without force. Nothing lifts without force. And force is never comfortable. So there's going to have to be something that gets this thing moving. And here's the easy mistake. We clear the launch pad. We remove the clutter. We let go of the weight. But we still expect this gentle takeoff. This is what messes up so many of us, is that we expect a real gentle takeoff, like we're riding in a luxury vehicle or something. You ever seen one of these things take off before? You ever watched one of these things take off before? You ever, the cameras, they're shaking like this, and they show the guys inside. It is not a gentle takeoff. I mean, there's some forces coming onto this thing right now. God is not going to ease you into a future. He's going to launch you into a future. It is not going to be pleasant. It is not going to be enjoyable. It is not going to be soft and comfortable. And that's what holds so many of us back, that we've become so accustomed to the comfort level of life that we're afraid to get into the shaky, scary levels of life that would launch us into something different. I want you to be able to do that. Don't mistake resistance for rejection. Resistance just means you're getting ready to launch. That's all. And the faster you go, the more wind resistance is going to be there. It's always going to be there. We got to get used to that. Listen to this. Acts chapter 1, verse 8. Jesus was letting the people know. He wanted them to know, hey guys, because here's what was going on. Jesus needed to get the gospel to the world. To the world. The nation of Israel had kind of failed to carry the gospel message out, and so Jesus says, I'm going to choose the church to do that. As he chose the church, he decided to build the church through 12 apostles and then move up from there. And he says, you guys got to leave Jerusalem to be able to do that. They had a challenge leaving Jerusalem, so God sent persecution. Could you hear this? God sent persecution to the early church because they wouldn't leave Jerusalem, where it was comfortable and safe. So he sent persecution, and it caused them to spread. They call it the diaspora, the dispersion. He pushed them out there. And when he did, notice what he did, though, in Acts chapter 1 and verse 8. He says, you shall receive power. You're going to receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you. And you're going to be witnesses to me in Jerusalem and all Judea and Samaria and even unto the ends of the earth. Can I tell you something? Power did not come to them so that they would be comfortable. Power came to them so they could move outward. If your faith has never pushed you out of your comfort zone, it has never produced thrust in your life. Thrust always feels like resistance, heat, noise, like strain, loss of control. And that's why we kind of backpedal from that. We don't like it when it starts to get a little crazy on us, when it starts to get a little fast on us, when it starts to get a little out of control on us, we tend to back up. We like preparation, clarity, and order because it feels safe. It does. Launch feels chaotic because a rocket shakes whenever it rises, and the noise increases before the altitude changes, and the pressure and acceleration intensify right before it lifts off. It's scary, and we don't like the scary things in life. But the shaking that you're trying to stop is the very thing that is launching you. You didn't hear that. The shaking that you're trying to shut down in your life is the pressure God is putting on you to launch you in your life. When your parent says, You thinking about getting a job? And you're like, back off, Dad. Back off, Mom. You know, because Mom and Dad are being mean. No, they're trying to launch you. That's all. They're trying to launch you. Hey, really grateful you're working, got a good job. Have you ever thought about applying for this job? I'm happy where I'm at. Back off. You ever recognize that sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, other people see you better than you see you? And other people see the potential you have far quicker than you will ever see your own potential. And they recognize what you could do, could be, are capable of, and they're not trying to get on you, they're trying to help launch you. I never walk up to a person to give you fluff. I never walk up and arbitrarily say something to you so I can be nice. I want to be nice. I always want to be nice. But that's not why I'm coming. Whatever I say to you, I'm going to try to be nice. But if I come to you and say something to you, it's because I see something in you. And I'm trying to identify it for you because nobody's told you yet. I want you to know. I want you to see what your possibilities are, what your capabilities are, what your potential is, the level that you could possibly go. And I see it in you. So I want to tell you, and if you feel like that's pressure, it's only because you're resistant. It's only because you're resistant. You've decided you're not tall enough, you're not short enough, you're not light enough, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too tall, you're too blonde, you're too redheaded, you're too something, right? I didn't graduate school, I didn't go to college, I didn't get whatever. There's a whole great cloud of witnesses that would tell you otherwise. There are some real popular people out there that didn't go to college, some real popular people that didn't graduate high school, some real popular people that flunked everything. And man, they have done some incredible things. The only difference between them and you is they don't believe the lie. That's all. James 1, verses 2 and 3 says this, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience." See, joy is not an issue of enjoying what's happening to you. Joy is the fact that you know what it's doing for you. You understand that these trials are strengthening me, that they are, when a person goes to the gym and they're picking weight, why is it that people in the gym, they love, like if a guy's in the gym and he's pumping iron, he's getting ready to do something, and a pretty girl comes in that he wants to impress, what does he do? Puts more weight on. Right, puts more weight on. Doesn't matter if he has a stroke, blows a blood vessel, doesn't matter. As long as she thinks it's pretty awesome, right? Puts more weight on. Because they understand, and it's like, and then they want the big muscles, right? Guys walk past the mirror and they say, oh yeah, they turn the arm down, the trap shows up, right? You know what I'm talking about. Girls, don't act like, you flip your hair like, oh, it was just, my hair was just, it was in the way. What do you mean it was in the way? You know what you're doing. Why is it that we don't do that in life? I'm in a struggle. Put more on. I need to be stronger. Don't let me avoid the struggle. Don't let me avoid the thrust. Let me go after the thrust. Let me learn again. Let me take a class again. Let me read a book again. Let me take my white belt again. Take the black belt off, get the white belt on, go into a different style, a different form. Let me learn again in something else. Let me try. Let me not be embarrassed. Let me not be worried. It's difficult sometimes to get that thrust going again. It's difficult. But see, the enemy comes after you right after you take some weight off, right after you resolve something, because he already knows that you're getting ready to launch, you're getting ready to go somewhere, and he wants to shut you down. But remember, launch is not about effort, it's about release, about something you gotta let go. But you know, even if you clear the pad and even if you have full thrust, there's one more moment that every launch must survive. Number 3, you must survive separation. And this is probably the hardest part. One thought. Nothing reaches orbit without first letting go of what got it off the ground. And I want you to take this personally. I want you to think about this in your own life. Nothing is ever going to reach orbit that doesn't first let go what it was that got it off the ground. It was the solid rocket boosters that are on there that got that rocket off the ground, coupled with the rockets that are on the shuttle itself, fueled by that big tank that is on there. But there's a point when that thing takes off, and you already know where that point is. They kind of get going downstream. They're not in orbit yet, but you already know there's coming a point where those two solid rocket boosters, they come off. How do they come off? They have explosive bolts on there, and they set off a charge. It blows the bolts up, and those two rockets come off. They come off while they're still pushing, right? They fly off in various directions. This separation is violent. It is not easy. Separation is hard, very hard. And then it continues on until it takes all the fuel out of that large tank. And then when that large tank is empty, there's explosive bolts on that, and it blows up, and it flies away. And then now we are out there into the atmosphere, outside of the atmosphere, and we can take off. But the thing is, have you ever seen the space shuttle in space circling the Earth looking like that? No. No, you would understand if you saw that out there, something went wrong. In fact, it wouldn't even go into space that way. It would crash into the ocean. There has to be a moment of separation. There just has to be. And this is the truth that no one prepares you for. Even after the launch pad is cleared and even after the thrust is fully engaged, not everything and not everyone that helped you launch is able to go with you. You are going to experience times in your life where you're going to be left behind. Or you're going to experience times in your life where you're going to have to leave somebody behind. You already know this is true. You already know that there's people, whenever you first start out in life, you feel like that everybody that's around you is going to be with you forever, but they're not. And suddenly you're in grade school, and you think, man, these are going to be my friends forever. And then next thing you know, your parents move or somebody moves and your friends move, and then they're not there with you anymore. And you're always looking for friends that are going to be there, but sooner or later, like when you go through high school is the most challenging one because you make really powerful relationships in high school. And at the end of high school and graduation, you're like, hey, I'll see you in the summertime and we're going to get together and we're going to hang out. And guess what? You don't. If you carry 2 or 3 people from high school out of the hundreds you went with, you're a lucky person if you carry that many with you. And they strip off because that's just the way that it is. Whenever you get into a business and you go to work somewhere and you have coworkers that you love and you're thinking, man, I love working with these people. Next thing you know, they're off to another job. And you're like, oh my gosh, I lost these people were my friends. I don't think I can make it. And then sometimes, believe it or not, maybe you're a business person and you're the owner, and there are people you outgrow. There are people that refuse to grow, and you continue to grow. And where your business is going starts to escape where they're at, and you have to let them go. And they don't understand why, and they get mad, and you're evil and wicked. But the truth is, if they won't continue to grow, you're going to have to let them go. You're going to have to sooner or later. There's got to be separation somewhere. Can I tell you the most difficult separation I think that there is between parents and children. It was difficult for me to separate from my household with my mom and dad. But I can tell you this, not nearly as difficult as it was for them to let me separate. Can I tell you the most difficult separation I've ever had was letting my son separate from me. See, I grew up and my son's around me, and I took him to church every morning. We would leave at the house at 5:30, and we'd come to church, and he always rode with me, and he would help me set things up and whatever. And we did it for years and years and years and years. And I'll never forget the first Sunday that he got in the car with me. He said, Dad, do I have to always get up this early and go with you to church? Can I come to just one service? I thought I'd die. I'm like, you don't want to come? And then I'll never forget whenever he had other friends other than me. And he wanted to go out with his friends, not me. And that was hard. That was painful. He thought he wanted to be in church ministry. and he worked with me. And then bad things happened and he didn't work with me anymore. But then he also didn't feel like he was supposed to be in church ministry anymore. And that was very hard for me. And he decided that he wanted to be, he actually discovered, he didn't decide, he discovered what he was really good at. And where he works now as a computer programmer type person, he's fabulous at it. And shooting to the top faster than a rocket can launch. Let me tell you what my best day was. When I embraced that Andy was not supposed to live my life. And that I was not to continue to live my life through him. But that God called me to prepare him for his life. And that I am the one that is supposed to continue to live mine. And now, it's better than it has ever been. He is my counselor more than he has ever been, and teaches me and trains me stuff I do not know. And I am continually his counselor and teach and train him stuff he does not know. He is far better than me in one area, and I am far better than him in another, and we collaborate and appreciate and integrate. And it is amazing. It is amazing. It really is. It's amazing. But it took explosive bold. I did not, by the way, before you think I'm spiritual, I didn't do that. I was the victim of him doing that to me. I did not do that on my own. I did not do that willingly. I did not do that wantingly. And I fought it every step of the way. But I could not be more grateful now that it has taken place. Nobody prepares us for that. But we have to do that. Genesis 12:1, I'm going to close. And I'm doing really good because it's only 5 minutes to 12. Plenty of time. God had a plan, and he had a plan, and he was going to create this plan through one guy. His name was Abram. But watch what he did. Genesis 12:1. The Lord said to Abram, get out of your country, get away from your family, and get out of your father's house, and go to a place that I'll tell you about a little later on. Let me tell you what God was doing with Abram. God had a plan, a race that he was going to set before Abram. The race was not in Ur of the Chaldeans. He said, that's not where the race is, so you're going to have to leave that place because that's not where the race is. So you're going to have to leave that place to get in the race I'm calling you to. Your family don't want to be in this race. And they're not going to agree with you being in the race. So I need you to get away from the family so that you can get into this race. Your father, I did not call to this race. And I did not call him to live the life I'm asking you to live. And I'm not calling him to live his life through you. So you're going to have to leave your father's house to get into that race, to be able to do that. And man, is this hard. This is hard to realize that there has to be a separation sometimes. Sometimes we have to take a step. Sometimes we have to take some things that we have to do. And it's painful for all parties involved. There is never a time in my life that I ever like seeing my son leave my house. He comes over every Sunday. He eats with me every Sunday. I bowl with him every Tuesday. We go out to eat every Tuesday. There's always a Tuesday I'm looking forward to, a part of Tuesday I'm looking forward to when I get to see him, I get to eat with him, and I get to bowl with him. And there's a part of Tuesday that I absolutely despise and hate, and it's when he drives off and goes to his house, and I drive off and go to mine. But I embrace the relationship. I embrace it. There is separation that has to take place. And it's painful. Separation is always painful. And we have to learn that if we can survive the separation, and some of us have not, some of your marriages did not work, and you did not survive the separation. You have not had another relationship. You have not cared for another person. You have warded off somebody else. You have put up barriers and boundaries all around you. You have shut yourself down, and you will not enjoy the rest of your life You haven't survived the separation. I want to encourage you in 2026. Resolve it. Forgive it. Give it to God. Don't have him turn around to you one day and say, there's what could have been. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Whatever happened, I am sorry. Believe me, I'm compassionate and I am sorry. But you know what? It's not the end. Are you breathing? It's not the end. It is not the end. Separation always feels like loss. The loss of familiarity, the loss of proximity, the loss of identity, the loss of affirmation, the loss of comfort. That's why we hesitate. Why does this feel so lonely? Why is it so quiet? Why do I feel so unstable? Because separation always feels like free fall before you catch into orbit. And man, when you get into orbit, things start to change. See, the silence you feel is not abandonment, it's altitude. It's altitude. The shaking you feel is not instability, it's transition. It's that moving from one place to the next. The grief you feel is not failure, it's release. You cannot take yesterday's structure into tomorrow's assignment. Jesus said it this way in John 12. Most assuredly I say unto you, unless you fall into the ground and die, you will remain alone. But if you'll let yourself die, you will produce much. Jesus was talking about grain. No, he was talking about you. You've got to let yourself die to some of this stuff. The reason you feel like something is ending is that something higher is actually beginning. Stages are not discarded because they're bad. They are released because they have fulfilled their purpose. Those rockets, those rocket boosters in that fuel tank are not bad. They're not wrong. They're not evil. They have just fulfilled the purpose for which they were strapped to the rocket. Why did this person abandon me? Could it be that they boosted you? And maybe it doesn't look like that, but could it be that they have boosted you to a place where you can actually orbit? I think it's possible. Remember, launch is not about effort. It's about release. Are you going to cling to what's familiar in this year, or are you going to trust God and let it go? Let me roll all the way back to the beginning. Some of you are going to work harder than you've ever worked before in 2026. And at the end of the year, you're going to be in exactly the same spot. Relationally, emotionally, financially, occupationally, spiritually. I hope not. If you choose to come here, I'm going to get in your face every single Sunday. I commit to you right now, I will come here as prepared as I can possibly be to stir you and not let you sit. Now, you still might sit, but you ain't going to sit comfortably. Well, you got to grow. You got to grow. Some of you will end up in exactly the same place. If nothing changes, your end of the year is going to be in the exact same place. Not because you lack effort, and not because you lack faith, and not because you lack prayer, and not because you lack thrust, and not because you lack meaning, and not because you lack purpose, but because you refuse to launch. To launch. Try it. When are you going to write the book? When are you going to start the job? When are you going to read the book? When are you going to go to college? When are you going to graduate? When are you going to try? When are you going to go talk to the girl? You've been eyeing her for about 2 years now. But you won't say anything. No, she wouldn't like you. She's noticed you about 10 years ago. She's waiting on you. Say something, man. What are you waiting on? Thank you. Ask her out. What can she say? What if she says no? You're no worse off than you are right now. You've been sitting there for 5 years doing nothing. You don't know that she might not like you. You know what happened? They came up with this dance because of men who were too chicken to ask a woman out. It's called the Sadie Hawkins dance because Sadie had to go ask the dude out. Rob Strickland's not in the audience, but you can tell him I said so. Rob is married to a young lady named Carolyn Strickland, used to be Carolyn Kearns. She'd still be Carolyn Kearns if Pastor Kenny hadn't asked her out for Pastor Rob. I'm like, boy, I'll do it. Okay, y'all tell me who your girlfriends are, who you want. I'll ask them for you. I'll ask them for you, man. If that's what it takes, I'll just ask them for you. I got a wife. I don't need another one, right? I ask them for you. If you ladies need, my wife will ask. Isn't that right, Terry? Is Terry back there? Back there, babe? Raise your hand. What? There she is. You ask them, right? Yeah, she said, yeah, she'll ask for you. Whatever it takes to get you off the launch pad, we'll ask for you, okay? This message is not about doing more. It's about moving forward because motion without direction is just simply wasted power. God did not design you to burn fuel on a launching pad. He designed you to soar. He designed you to live. He designed you to create. He designed you to break out of that orbit. So in this message, God shows you why your launch fails so many times. Because some of us are still restrained. Some of us are still retreating from the pressure that gets increased when people come our way. Some of us are still filled with fear. And therefore, we refuse separation when it's time to go higher. 2026 does not have to be that kind of a year. It should be a year not of preparation, but of progress. And this can be the year that you release. You release whatever's been holding on to you. I pray for you. I really do. I don't mean this mean. I want to see you happy. I want to see you flourishing. I want to see you fruitful, man. I want to see it, and you can do it. I want you to release something out there, what's been holding you down. I want you to endure that pressure that makes you want to escape it. But it's actually, you got to get to escape velocity. So that speed has to increase, and you need energy and power and motion and fuel to be able to do that. I want you to let go of what no longer belongs in your future because nothing changes until something moves. And today, God is not asking you to rev your engines. He's asking you to release the clamps that are holding you down. So here's the final question. Are you going to plan to stay on the pad? Or will you launch? If God is calling you forward and separating you in 2026, and I hope we put this on the screen for you, it's not because you're losing something. It is because you're finally going somewhere. And this year, let's go somewhere. Father, in Jesus' name, I pray that you will empower every single person here. First and foremost, to overcome the restraints that have held them on that launching pad for far too long. It's been too long. It's too long. Life is short. Life is but a vapor. It's here for a moment, and then it is gone. Let us not waste any of it. We're so focused on money and possessions. A person that's sitting in front of me today who is flat broke can begin to make more money than they have ever made in their life starting today if they wanted to. However, you cannot make more time. Time is our most precious commodity. We all only get so much, and we cannot make more. I can lose every possession I have and gain it back through effort. But I cannot gain another minute of life. Please, Father, help people understand that. And then if they slip out into eternity apart from knowing you as their Lord and Savior, they will understand the eternal nature of time, separated and in suffering. We need to be saved. If there's anybody here today that doesn't know Jesus, we've made it focused and purposeful and meaningful and available. We have a place outside. It's a place out there with a blue canopy over top of it, where there are people that help somebody that needs to know Jesus, where they have time, they have attention, they have focus. We can walk them through and help them. Online, there's a QR code. You can either click it or you can look at it with your phone and it'll take you to a spot, and we'll help you know Jesus. And I pray people will take advantage of that. But Father, I pray that in 2026 that we will not have any failures to launch, that this will be a year of launching for the things that we've held back, and because we're afraid of failure, that we will learn to embrace failure. We understand we have to fail before we can succeed. That we'll do that. And we'll trust you with that. We'll make our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, before you guys leave, I want you to watch a 1-minute video. 1 minute. Let me preface it. In 2026, Northside plans to address the issues that are out here in life. If there's one thing I've seen on TV more than I like to see, there are a lot of sexual predators and things like that that are going on in our nation and our world among some very tragic places. And I often wonder, why is that happening? Well, the only people that ever talk about the sexual relationship is the world. Church people get very upset about that if we ever mention it or talk about it, especially if there are kids present or something like that. And I recognize that. To talk about that type of relationship needs to be done with understanding and with precision, and to a certain audience in a certain venue at a certain place for a certain time. And where I see most of the counseling and stuff that I do is marital. And there are two areas that really I do more than any, and that's financial and sexual. Financial is fairly easy because it's based on numbers and facts and figures, and we have programs and things like that and people that will help you. When it comes to the sexual relationship, it's one of those sort of taboo subject matters and stuff, and we don't talk about it, and couples don't talk about it a whole lot, and they fight about it, and it creates all kinds of struggles and issues and things like that. And so a couple in our church, Les and Tyra Lalo, have committed themselves to a marriage ministry here, and they're having a marriage conference in February for Valentine's Day. It's entitled Sex, the Naked Truth. It is not inappropriate, it's not unrighteous, it is not pornographic. It is biblical, it is holy, it is helpful, it is practical, it is reasonable, it is relatable. It is not for those who need help, it is for those who need help, those who don't need help, those that are doing great, those who want to do better. And I recommend it to you, and I offer it to you. There's only 200 spots available. It's very inexpensive. All we want to do is recover costs to feed you food and stuff like that. We don't make money on this stuff. But I offer it to you as a service of our church, because I think that one of the ways that we address some of the issues is not after it happened, it is catching it at its source before anything ever happens. And we help to reframe and renew your mind in such a way that life becomes holy and precious, and that this relationship becomes beautiful rather than terrible. And maybe we can save a whole lot of marriages and people if we do that. So I want you to watch this video, and then you'll be dismissed. I'll be out front. And I thank you for your attention, and happy 2026.